Hey everybody, so this is Bribe here again doing another video about Damage Engine. It's been a bit of a adventure in order to try to get everything done around a pretty busy schedule of mine. I have a few things that I wanted to talk about Damage Engine in this video that I'm making. I'd like to start with just going over some of the configuration changes that were introduced with Damage Engine 5. So you can see that a lot of these initial variables are kind of similar to how they had always been. Did want to mention that the damage type code and pure were added. Damage type code is detected when a user deals damage through a unit damage target function. Damage type pure basically ignores any kind of modifications of the damage engine of Warcraft 3 or any kind of user modifications that may be done. That's a pretty big feature. The noise you're hearing in the background is my daughter playing with toys. So I don't have a whole lot of time for this. I do apologize about the noise. So let's see what we have here. This is the same as it's always been. Okay, so attack type. So you've got attack type spells, normal, pierce, siege, magic, chaos, hero. These are basically the primary attack types that everybody should be familiar with about their heroes or units and the type of damage that they deal, because this has been very visible, even if you don't have any experience with modifying triggers. I'm going to try taking this to another room. She followed me. All right. Living room. Okay, next, damage types. So damage types are a bit less familiar to people. I'll mention a couple of more obvious ones here. So there's a universal, which is dealt when a hero uses an ultimate attack. It ignores any kind of spell immunity. She's back. Let me just try to stand this up here. Okay, so we have enhanced damage, which is dealt by not critical strike, but cleaving attack or pulverize. Those are the two that I've seen it encountered, but there might be more instances where you've seen it. Damage type unknown, basically that's dealt when a negative buff, or also known as a debuff, is applied. And damage type normal is the only damage type that does not ignore armor of all of these. So this is the one that's used by all physical attacks, effectively. Let's continue down the list here. Damage type unknown, there's also another feature that I've added with Damage Engine, that you can actually use this in order to ignore damage detection. When you use unknown damage type from a unit damage target function, it ignores the modification events, except for the lethal damage event and the damage modifier 4.0 event, because those I feel should run regardless of the damage type, because they kind of count towards the unit's actual hit points and not, I don't really consider that actual modification. Weapon types are a new one. They're totally unfamiliar to people who are only using GUI triggers instead of JAS, but weapon types effectively make sounds when the unit hits its target. These are mainly found in melee attacks. So when the footman attacks or a grunt or otherwise, but if there's no weapon type, that's generally a ranged attack. So I have introduced a couple of things that you can use to check, which you can find below in the How to Use Damage Engine 5.1 section. You can see that I've added, here, let me zoom in a bit. Is damage ranged or is damage melee? No one of these three is ever going to be the same at the same time. Yeah, they're always mutually exclusive. So it's either a spell or ranged or melee. And let's go back up to the code so that I can kind of have a sense of organization about how to do this video. Right, so I didn't change a whole lot about the header description of the damage engine JAS code. The damage types are pretty much the same. You always set next damage type equals whatever damage type you want. And then you do your unit, cause unit to damage whoever for however much. And yeah, so the 0 damage event is still there, or because I brought it back. It had been removed anyway. That's another story, but you can modify the damage event. Yeah, okay. This is all pretty much the same stuff. One exception to how things used to work when dealing user damage is that you no longer have to turn off your own trigger. This is getting loud. You no longer have to turn off your own trigger before dealing the damage. You can now either use the damage type unknown, like I was talking about earlier, or you can use the set damage event trigger equals your own trigger, and I'll show that really quick in this little error message. Where is that? Here it is. Yeah, so you set damage event trigger equals this trigger, so your own trigger that you're issuing the damage from. That's where you want to keep in mind to avoid any kind of recursion in case you're dealing damage from an event, which is the damage modifier event, a lethal damage event, or a regular vanilla damage event. Moving on, you'll notice the title here is a bit familiar to you. Perhaps if you have former experience with Damage Engine, clear damage event is still a function, but you no longer have to use it. You no longer have to call it yourself. The system has gotten really good about recursion, and so you can just delete any instances that you have that try to call or execute the clear damage event trigger. Because recursion is now done pretty nicely. All recursion is basically done at the end of the running damage instance via this command here, which runs code that's at the bottom of the script. AoE damage detection is pretty basic and primitive. I don't really know very many uses for it, but I've kept it around in case somebody gets some creative idea one day. Okay, so this is just the timer event, which does a final clear damage event just in case there's anything not cleared yet, and the AoE damage event would run here. All right, she's found a remote control car. We got ourselves a few minutes. Okay, so the next things that we have here are, this is the recursion handling. So if the damage is recursion, then we can store the damage and then effectively set the damage to 0 and get rid of the interrupting damage instance. So instead of being recursive like it always was in the past, it is now going to be queued at the end. So let's say Unit A damages Unit B. Unit A, let's just skip this part for a while. My concentration isn't really all the way here right now. If you have questions about the order of execution of damage instances, just ask me and I'll hopefully be able to explain it better at that time. Next, this is AoE detection. This is enhanced damage detection. This is the this is more to do with AoE. Spirit Link, I had to hard code a lot of interesting stuff about Spirit Link in order to get things fixed up for it. But it took many hours. I finally cracked it. It was a pain in the ass. Okay, damage event previous amount is now the pre-armor amount, just to let everybody know, pre-armor amount. So that is very, very useful and opens up a lot of possibilities. Thank you, Blizzard, for making that possible. Damage event attack damage weapon type, obviously also patch 1.31 features. Thank you again for making it possible to make Damage Engine extremely kick-ass. Okay, so damage type normal is spell damage. So again, because we now have access to the damage type, I don't have to use any of that object editor hacky stuff with negative damage. You just can leave a map like as unadulterated as possible and simply implement the damage engine script alone, no object editor data, just the script, and everything is taken from there. The values are very, very good now. And I also added in some melee and range detection in case you want that extra versatility in your damage modification. And then, yeah, here's damage modifier events. This is the main one, 1.00. I've had a couple of questions about what these two are, and it's really up to you as the user. If you use just the 1.00 and use like one big, huge trigger with all of your damage running off of that one trigger, then you don't need 2 or 3. But I've got them there in case you want to have more control over the order of execution without having to have everything in one giant trigger. For example, you could even do something creative here and use the damage modifier event equals 3.00 as an event where you can apply a pre-armor shield value, which would work similarly to anti-magic shell, which is deducted before armor because it's spell damage. But okay, on pre-damage, yep, okay, so this is just under the hood stuff. Basically, you're looking at the engine there. More engine stuff. This is all, yeah, so this is recursive. This is all needed. So if you define the damage event trigger equals your own trigger, then I turn it off. I run the damage instance for modification. And then I, after all of the queued up damage is run, I then re-enable all of the, I re-enable either the trigger or all of the triggers that you had set up in that time, so that that recursive stuff isn't just going on and on and on forever. Just a second. My daughter's in a precarious situation. I'm just going to set the phone down. Okay. Okay, next. I don't have time to edit this video, so you're just going to have to watch the uncut version. Okay, so the on damage function, this is the classic damage event. It's done after armor is applied. So yeah, so the 0 damage event, as I said, I brought it back. Blizzard reintroduced the 0 damage event with patch 1.3.1.1. So previously it was sometimes 0 and sometimes it was dealing 1 damage. So I was like, yeah, this is too complicated. So I'll just get rid of it. And now that it's back and it's all 0 damage the way it was always meant to be, yeah, she's up here now. All right. Okay, I'll hurry up along. Okay, more Spirit Link stuff. Great. Awesome. Okay, yep. Computer's falling off the bed. Let's see. Healing, I think in a previous version of Damage Engine, the healing wasn't working correctly, but I fixed it now. And I only run the damage event equals 1.00 if the damage type is not unknown. But if it is unknown, then I hide it so that the user can't detect it. And here, one more shout out to Blizzard. I no longer have to use that crazy dynamic trigger that detects damage, because now it is a player unit event. So that's super useful. Hasn't yet been brought to GUI. Maybe it will one day. But honestly, as long as you've got Damage Engine, you don't really need any of that in GUI anyway, because having a Damage Engine to process all of your damage is a safer option than trying to hard code it all yourself, unless, of course, you only just have one damage modification behavior in your map, and there's no chance that it would overlap. Yep, and then I've added some debug strings so that I can display reporting behavior, and yeah. I think that's pretty much it for this code. And yeah, things are getting a little bit crazy here at home at the moment. But yeah, unit damage target EX just for JAS or VJAS users, really. No need to use it if you're using GUI because you can just use the traditional event. But this one is maybe a tiny bit faster if you're using JAS or VJAS. And that's really all that I want to cover for now. Hope you enjoyed the video, and hope that you maybe had a bit of a chuckle about my daughter's antics while I was making it. Okay, have a nice day. Bye.